Greetings there, viewer. Hi, and welcome to a new series I'm doing. I call this series Should You Buy? Basically, in this series, I'm going to be looking at different Roblox game passes and seeing if you should buy them or not, with the help of this handy-dandy little bar. So, on the left here, we have Don't Buy It. These are for game passes that are just so bad. They offer little to no value and are extremely overpriced. These are the ones that you should never buy. Next, if you really want to. These are game passes that aren't very good and I don't recommend buying them. But if you really want to, then sure. Next, we have If You're a Big Fan. And these are for if you're a really big fan of the game, then you can buy these. You know, they're not a complete waste of money if you really enjoy the game. And this one's if you're a fan. You know, if you like the game decently, you don't have to be a super big fan to really enjoy this game pass. But if you're a fan, then you know what, it can be kind of fun. And then we have Buy It. These are for the absolute best game passes of all time. These are just the game passes you need to buy if you have Robux. So looking at this, we have our chart. Now, the game we're going to be covering today is Robot 64, and it's 2 DLC levels. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, let's talk about what you're actually getting in this pack. You're of course getting the 2 levels, Snow Zone Cave and Buzz Factory, and you're also getting a flamethrower as well, to use in the hub. Now let's talk about this flamethrower, because it's a pretty neat bonus. It is so much fun. I spent many minutes just running around with this. It's just so fun to use. So basically, it replaces your dive, which is a pretty important move. But when you're walking, it'll shoot out fire. Now this fire will slow you down, which sounds pretty stupid until you jump, where it will speed you forward at incredible speeds. It is so much fun just jumping around the level, flying. And as a neat bonus, you can basically run up walls infinitely with this thing. It's a little hard to understand at first, but once you get it, it is pretty fun. Now let's get on to the actual levels, starting with Snow Zone Cave. So Snow Zone Cave is actually a pretty fun level. This comes down mostly to how well it handles the flamethrower. So basically, the level's layout is a bunch of islands with platforming in between them. Now this might sound like it would become super repetitive, but the parkour is simple enough so you can do it in a bunch of different ways. And when you get the flamethrower, oh boy, you can either just fly over half the parkour using its super long jumps, or you can skip it entirely using its super long jumps and its wall climb. It's really fun. You feel super powerful when you get to do that. I honestly couldn't think of a better way to use the flamethrower. Now, a thing that isn't so great is the ice cream objectives. I mean, one of them is bounce on mushroom, and another one is climb up ice wall. Getting to these objectives is pretty fun, but like, couldn't you have thought of something a little better to do? Like, can you bounce on like a few mushrooms? I mean, they did do that, but like, come on, you can think of something, right? However, it's not a big deal, as getting to these ice creams is really fun. One thing I will point out, though, is there are 2 less ice creams in these levels than there are in the rest of the game, which doesn't make much sense. I think it's so that they could have the perfect 64 ice creams, but honestly, it's kind of like, is that really better? Because these levels could have really used 2 more ice creams. But it's not a big deal. You're still getting enough content, and you don't feel like you're being ripped off or anything. And another thing is, there are the purple portal worlds in the rest of the levels, but in these levels, they're just not there. So if you really like those, they're not here. But it's okay, as these levels focus on platforming anyways, so they're kind of there, basically. So now whatever, let's just get on to Buzz Factory. So sadly, Buzz Factory isn't nearly as good of a level, but it's not bad. It just isn't that great either. First, I'm gonna talk about something I didn't really talk about with the last level. That being the level gimmicks, because I think this level doesn't use them very well. The first gimmick is these gears, and basically they're just kind of spinning platforms. They don't do very much, and they don't go as fast as spinning platforms. They add a little bit of variety to your jumps, but not very much. The second main gimmick would be these swinging honeycomb platforms, and they are a little bit annoying because when you jump off, you lose all your momentum, which means if you're gonna do it in mid-swing, you're not gonna get very far. It doesn't feel very satisfactory to do it at all. Then we have these bees, which just kind of sit there. They're alright. I'm glad we got to see some flying enemies. Although, you can be like standing like 2 feet in front of them and they just won't move at all, which doesn't make very much sense and it's kind of weird, but it's okay. Then there's a bunch of stuff they don't really use, like those honeycombs sticking out of the ground. You can ground pound them and then they'll go further into the ground, but like they don't do anything. Then you also have the honey as well. Can't forget about that. That one was actually used for a single ice cream, and it didn't use any of its unique properties. Basically, honey, when you're in it, it slows you down and you can't jump. That could have been used for some fun missions. What if you have to beat up some bees while stuck in honey? That could make for an interesting challenge. But no, it wasn't really used. Now let's get on to the actual ice creams, and they're pretty good. There were two, I think, that are kind of just okay. Those being the two at the very top. But there are still plenty of good ones so that it feels even enough. For example, you have the one where you're collecting honey that I mentioned about. You also have the one where you're platforming up gears, and there are lots of solid ones. But there are two that aren't very good. First of all is the epic Big Bees boss battle, which is super tough. Watch this epic battle. Whoa, that was so epic, guys, right? It was so challenging to press jump and to press ground pound. That was so hard, guys. Then the next ice cream is up this pole. And getting to the ice cream is fine. It's just the fact that we had the Big B's ice cream up here. So it feels like all you had to do to get this ice cream was just climb up a boring old pole. Which isn't very fun. But whatever. These ice creams aren't bad. They're just not that great either. But this level has plenty of good ice creams to make it feel like, to make them balance out. As for the layout, I don't think it's that great, requiring you to basically go the same path every time, meaning that you can't really get much replayability out of this level. But I think that's enough complaining. It's not a bad level by any means, it's just not as good as most of the rest of the levels in the game. But I think now it's time for my final verdict. Now let's actually review the Game Pass. So I got my little beepo head here, and I'm gonna rate it on don't buy if you really want to. If you're a big fan, if you're a fan, and buy it. I'm gonna put it into an if you're a fan. So the Game Pass costs 250 Robux, which roughly translates to $5, and for a little over $5. And for a little over $5, I gotta say, it's definitely worth it. It's not like an instant buy it, you know, because it has some flaws, and I feel like ways to improve it would be to add 2 ice creams to each of the level. I feel like that would make it a lot better. But other than that, I mean, it's pretty good, and for that amount of money, I'd say, if you're a fan of the game, you know, if you like the game, definitely buy it. I mean, if there are, like, games you like more, like, you like Jailbreak, maybe buy one of Jailbreak's, but, you know, for 250 Robux, if you're a fan of the game, I'd say you should buy it. So yeah. Okay, so that's it for the review, and always, if there are any games you want me to cover, if there are any game passes, like as I mentioned before, Jailbreak, you know, I might consider doing a review on a Jailbreak game pass. So, if there are any game passes you're considering buying but you don't know if you should or should not, you can ask me to review them, and I just might do that. But anyways, that's it for the video. Goodbye.